Hello there. May the 4th be with you. And welcome to Home Media Minefield presents Let's See What's Out There Live, an entertainment live stream focused on film and television. My name's Keith Isles. I am an independent filmmaker and lifelong enthusiast of movies, TV series, and related media. If it's your first time here and you've just found us, then welcome. Please, if you're watching this live and you want to get involved in the live chat, please do so, and I will make every effort to get to as many comments as possible and address those. But if not a problem. You can always just watch along. We do appreciate it. And if you're finding us after the event, you can still put comments down in the section below. And please do, if you like this sort of thing, consider liking the channel, giving us one of those nice thumbs up, subscribing, and if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified as and when different content drops. We cover lots of things film and TV related on this channel. Everything from live streams like we're doing tonight to home media reviews of physical media, unboxings, etc. So if that's your kind of jelly, please do get involved. For the last 8 weeks, we have been doing regular episodes covering Star Wars The Mandalorian, which finished its 3rd season just a few weeks ago. We thought, as there's a little bit of time has passed, you know, the reviews have got out there, we've all had time to sort of think about it somewhat. I thought I'd put a live stream together and invite some guests on to share our thoughts in retrospect of The Mandalorian in general. So we will be spoiling things not only for season 3, but we'll probably be going back and talking about everything from the first season onwards. So be warned as far as that is concerned. So as I said, I'm not alone on this. First up, he was my regular co-host for the Mandalorian show. He is a writer and artist. Welcome to the show, Graham Williams.
Hello there.
How you doing, Graham?
All well here, thank you. I'm into the lisping day mode here. May the 4th be with you always.
Indeed, very good. Well lisped.
Thank you.
Also joining us, again, a regular, used to be my co-host in a podcast that he actually conceived called Movie Heaven, Movie Hell, of which there's over 200 episodes available out there for you to check on all good podcatchers. He too is a filmmaker. Welcome back, Simon Aiken. How you doing, Simon?
I'm good.
Nice to see you.
Yes. I see we've all got our t-shirts.
We are all sporting Star Wars t-shirts. Well, so far. I wonder. I don't think our 4th guest has got a Star Wars t-shirt. He's certainly got a t-shirt, but I can't see if it's a Star Wars one. Maybe the lettering is just in the same color as the t-shirt, and it does secretly say Star Wars, or May the 4th, or Sod Off Keith. One or the other, I'm sure. But he too has his own YouTube channel, which focuses very much on comics, right from the literature, comics themselves, through to movies, TV shows, and video games. So welcome, joining us from the Comic Crush, it's Paul Dunn. Hey, Paul.
Hey, you're right. I don't have I have got a shirt on, luckily for everyone. But I don't have a Star Wars t-shirt. I don't own a single bit of Star Wars apparel.
Do you not?
No, wow. Not at all. I haven't owned a Star Wars t-shirt in years.
Wow. Okay.
I don't wear a slogan t-shirts well, I have to say. I'm not the fashion plate you guys are, unfortunately. So I can't really get away with it. I'm sorry.
I mean, look at us guys. Yeah, we're perfect for it, definitely. And you've just had a birthday as well, Paul. Yeah, not quite.
Not quite May the 4th, but yesterday. Yeah. So
did you have a good day?
It was lovely. It was lovely. Thank you. No, I'm not quite. I'm older than Star Wars. So
A little.
Aren't we all?
Only just.
Which is always a daunting thing to realise.
Yeah. Well, no, I know it is. It is every year. It gets more scary. But
Older than Star Wars, but the same age as Jaws. There you go.
Ah.
Oh wow.
That's my movie claim to fame.
Give it away, why don't you? Yeah, no, there you go.
I don't mind.
Well, listen, while we're here as well, talking about birthdays and gifts and all sorts of things, I've got my Grogu figure here with me, which was courtesy of friend of the channel, Rob Wickings. So I really do appreciate that. And I've got to give my mum a special shout out. Last year she did this, and she has done it once again. She prepared for me a Happy Son's Day, May the 4th be with you card.
Amazing.
She literally made herself. Not only is the message in it absolutely lovely, but the creativity. Bless my mum. I really do appreciate it. And obviously, my mum is always a huge supporter of anything I try and do creatively. So I know she watches this, even though she probably hasn't a clue about half the things that we talk about, but I do appreciate it. So thank you, Mum, and may the 4th be with you too.
I think that's really lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. She did the same last year as well, and it was completely unexpected, but it's lovely, you know, when the post box goes and you've got something like that in there. So so I thought I'd start it off with that on a positive. But okay, so this is really, you know, obviously myself and Graham, we spent 8 weeks covering the usual format that we do on this channel, where we talk about the episode and we break down Easter eggs and talk about the creative crew behind it, and then get into all of our nitpicks and speculation and all of that stuff. Obviously, we're beyond that now. The show has aired. So I'm really, you know, I can waffle on about this stuff forever, but I'm really much more interested in hearing what you guys have got to say. So I know a lot of Graham's thoughts because we shared them every week. So I want to start with you, Paul, actually. Where are you sort of at with The Mandalorian? I take it you're up to date with everything, hopefully.
I am indeed. Obviously, just finished I can't remember. Was it like 2 weeks ago it finished? Maybe
I think
longer.
So, yeah.
So yeah, completely up to date. I was doing a rewatch of the episodes a while back, but kind of other things got in the way. And in fact, today I did take a look at the last few Book of Boba Fett episodes, just because I couldn't remember for the life of me how Mando and Grogu got back together. Like it had completely gone. But yeah, completely up to date on it.
Fair enough. And I mean, I'm sure we'll drill in as we go along, but broadly, are you you know, are you happy with it, or are you? I know it's divided a lot of people. So I you know, obviously this show, and the reason we're doing it on May 4th is it's about celebrating. But likewise, that does not mean that these things are beyond criticism. So
yeah, overall, I really enjoyed it. I always find those shows really quite a lot of fun. I don't watch them all. I don't watch the animated stuff, not for any bias or any reason but just because I think you have to have a filter, and how much of your life do you want to give over to different things and all that, you know, versus how much time you've got, you know, for real life. And I don't, for that reason, I filtered out the kind of animate shows so far. However, my friend Laura, who I want to say hello to, hi Laura, she sent me a really good kind of complete watch list of Star Wars, because she has kind of watched it all.
Right. And
her kind of focus is the prequels, really, because she's a bit younger, and that's the kind of Star Wars she grew up with.
Yeah.
And she's kind of really into the kind of whole Anakin through line and all that. So she sent me a complete watch list, and I am tempted to kind of start very slowly, you know, finding a bit of time each week to try and watch through some of that watch list.
Yeah.
So I think she starts all the way at the beginning of Phantom Menace and then goes through Clone Wars, all that. So yeah, I'm overall I enjoyed the show.
Cool. No, I mean that's interesting what you bring up there. I mean, it is difficult in today's world, I think, to be a completist with everything. And I've gone from being sort of obsessed to being a completist to accepting that, you know what, not all of it's for me, and you don't have to watch everything. However, I think that with where they're going to take this, with the new Ahsoka series and some of the things that were revealed in this season of Mandalorian, it might be worth you, if you get a chance, catching up with the Rebels animated series, which I have to say I quite enjoyed, because I know there's definitely going to be some plot strands from that feed into the Ahsoka show, from what I understand anyway. So it might be worth checking some of that out, perhaps.
Okay.
I know some characters are certainly making their sort of live action debut that were originally in that animated show.
Maybe we'll get to this over the course of this thing, but I'm a bit confused about the Ahsoka show, because from the trailer, a lot of it looks like it's set pre-Mandalorian.
Right. It might jump around.
So I was a bit confused about the timeline.
Yeah, I mean, Rebels is something that's set sort of pre-New Hope. So
okay,
pre-Mandalorian by some time, but yeah, well, we'll get into that, I'm sure. But first, I want to direct the same question to Simon.
What did I think of Mandalorian season 3?
Absolutely, Simon.
Absolutely disappointing.
Right,
and ask me putting it politely.
Don't hold back, Simon. Come on.
No.
You wanted to just let trip. You're amongst friends.
It's Star Wars Day, so I'm gonna use my best language. So I enjoyed the first 2 series of Mandalorian, and it was a take on Lone Wolf and Cub. Star Wars is known for borrowing from especially like the samurai genre, cowboys, sci-fi, Flash Gordon. It does borrow it and then transformed it into the films that we love. So I was very happy with the first 2 seasons. It seemed to be slightly more adult, had a slightly harder edge to it. And I also, it ended in a very satisfying way. I mean, spoiler, they were able to get Grogu back to the Jedi. And it's like, well, that's a perfect place to end it. And then we got the bit in Book of Boba Fett, and which was probably the best bit out of that show, because that show was terrible and just did Boba Fett such a disservice. And then of course, when we got into season 3, it did seem to be a complete reset. And the Mandalorians in all the other sort of cartoons, literature, all that kind of stuff, these were fearsome warriors. And yet in this show, they seem to be a bunch of idiots. I'm sorry. I mean, they have no technical awareness at all. The fact that they keep getting attacked by dinosaurs and nobody thinks about moving. Maybe this cave is not so safe.
Yeah, or stand by the water.
Well, I mean, the fact that you get this big crocodile scene at the beginning of the first episode, and then and later down the road you have this episode with a pterodactyl, and it keeps attacking us. That's like, well, maybe move or put some defenses up. Put one of those sort of force field gates that Obi-Wan Kenobi could walk around. It's just like the people making these shows is just fucking awful.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. So yeah, it's just been the thing that got me is story wise. They would do one thread and then it would be cleared up really easily. So take Mando having to, restore his honor by bathing in the waters of Mandalore. In most series, if it wasn't the halfway point, that would have been the end of the series that he finally reached that. He did it in two episodes. It's actually like, well, I need this robot to go here, and then the next episode went, no, you don't need that robot. Have that robot, and you're like, that will do. And then it's like, and then by episode 3, it's like, fine, he's done that now. He's back in the clan. And then you have Bo-Katan, she comes in and she's now the Mandalorian because Mando seems to be like Boba Fett, the guest star in his own show, takes a back seat on everything. Unless, of course, it's, that planet with the droids from the Clone Wars. He seemed to like manhandling those. It's just like
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I mean, I could go on and on, but I mean, by the time we got to the final episode, I did not care one bit, and I couldn't, all sense had gone out the window, logic had gone out the window. Let's smash a starship into the base, everything will be fine.
Yeah. No, I don't, completely disagree with what you're saying by any means. I think you've got a lot of valid points there. And Jaden Smith Eyes, who's watching, thanks, Jaden, has also put very politely a complete disappointment. So,
yeah.
So there you go. You're not alone with those thoughts. Graham, obviously you've had a couple of weeks now to reflect on this, and I think it's fair to say that during the course of watching this show and us reviewing it each week, you were kind of the light side of the force, where I was the dark side a little bit against this show. Has your opinion changed any? Where are you kind of at with it on reflection?
On reflection, it isn't backwards, so that's a positive. Just to be a bit, going the mythical aspect of it there. But anyway, season 3, as I was saying to you as we were going through, was always going to be compared with season 1. Season 1 was where they set the bar high. We didn't know what was going to be introduced to us, and as Simon mentioned, we got a Star Wars Lone Wolf Cub, which I absolutely adore, as far as the graphic novel is concerned, right? So they literally went under the bar with season 3, and I have, mostly on reflection, it was still a really enjoyable season. I still adore the look, feel, the new Star Wars atmosphere of the Mandalorian. Everything there, which includes the sound effects and also its look and the music is still there. So I'm still a fan, but they really screwed the pooch with Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. So on reflection, the Book of Boba Fett for me is at least 3 stories that they all trying to cram in. Disney did the same with over in the other universe, which is the MCU with the the Winter Soldier and the Falcon. Just had so many stories and couldn't pick one, right? It's a damn shame that we had to have what I can imagine as writers and those planning for season 3 was so disappointed that they had plotted out 3. It seemed as if they just had to pull a couple of, they had literally had to chop out the beginning and throw it into another series. So therefore, when you get to this end of season 2 to season 3, that's confusing as hell, right? So I've been talking to my wife and daughter about this because they've been watching the Mandalorian with me. They didn't watch Book of Boba Fett with me, apart from the 2.5 episodes I deliberately made them watch because I knew they were the bridges. They wouldn't have watched that. So when it came into season 3, as you rightly said right at the beginning, Keith, and everybody else has seen that too, is that we started off kind of wrong-footed in season 3 of Mandalorian. I think that's shaken a lot of people. For me personally, if we don't take it episode by episode first, it was still a very unpredictable story. I went back to the trailers earlier on today as well because I usually watch the teaser and then I leave everything all alone because these days you get so much spoilers and you get so many trailers that just tell the story.
Excuse me, sorry.
Movies. I know, right? It just makes you sneeze at the amount of content and product out there, Paul. It is like that.
An allergy.
So look at the trailers, and actually they really sold the sizzle there.
Yeah.
But the sizzle this time though wasn't reflected in the series. So while it was enjoyable, we can pick holes in it, and there were a couple of very disappointing episodes as a whole. Because I don't mind, honestly, seeing a series on the Mandalorians, and to counter Simon's point on became the Book of Bo-Katan, to coin that name. I think Keith said it on one of our episodes we were reviewing. This season should have been called The Mandalorians. I think that would have been a more fitting title here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as Paul said, Paul, you needed to go back and watch those
I did,
episodes in order to see where we were. I mean, we got another comment. Star Charmer 82. Wonder who that is. Way too rushed, and they lost all the momentum. Should have left it at the end of last season. That was the best ending, and that's the thing. I think when you do compare season 3 to the previous 2 seasons, it almost feels like this is the end of a trilogy, because those first 2 ended with a reveal. The first one was Moff Gideon and the Darksaber, and then obviously the second one was the awesome return of Luke Skywalker and Jedi Knight, and the saying goodbye between Mando and Grogu, which was pretty powerful stuff, I think, and I know it set the internet on fire. That show, and at the time I was only doing them as podcasts, but we had a lot of discussion around that at the time, and so this almost feels like it's the end. I mean, I thought if they don't have a 4th season, which they're saying they're going to, but if they don't, it almost feels to me like they wrapped it all up with a happy ending, and it just felt underwhelming. But one of the things I think that Jon Favreau, who I've got a lot of respect for, I think Jon Favreau is a really good filmmaker. He's a funny guy when you see him in movies and stuff. Love his work, but from what I can tell with this, he writes these. Obviously, Dave Filoni has some input as well, but I often think that maybe Jon Favreau would benefit from a writer's room like most shows have, and I don't know whether that's being unfair to him or not.
Can I interrupt you?
Of course.
Now, the rumor is that he's out of Star Wars now, and season 3 was more of a contractual thing to do. So I think it was quite clear Jon Favreau's checked out, and Kathleen Kennedy had her mitts all over it because it had all the signs of Kathleen Kennedy. The fact that Bo-Katan was now the main character. She did all the action. She saved Mando in the second episode, and then he handed her the Darksaber without them fighting for it. And, you know, she was able to take her helmet off for no apparent reason apart from that she is, you know, a girl boss. So these are all the markings of Kathleen Kennedy.
Well, on that
not Jon Favreau.
on that point, isn't the reason she takes her helmet off is she doesn't subscribe to.
Well, she was subscribed because she had bathed in the waters of Mandalore. She was able to become part of the clan, and she was wearing a helmet, especially through the rescue the younglings scene. But then at the end of that, the armorer said, "Oh, you can take your helmet off."
Yeah, because I think the idea is that the new community they're going on to build is meant to be more inclusive of the different clans,
there wasn't
right?
There wasn't an explanation for that.
Well,
there wasn't anything that was kind of there.
That was the explanation. There was actually I'm sure there's a scene where she talks about or alludes to at least being more inclusive with the.
Yeah, that's what it was.
With
yeah.
how they.
Yeah,
sorry, I'm not having a go at you, Simon.
No, but I'm just saying that if that was the case, then why just Bo-Katan? Why not the whole of the clan? Why not say you can take your helmets off, boys? You know,
that's the implication.
You don't have to go round the corner to eat your food. I mean, we've got that scene, didn't we? We've got the fireplace scene. Yeah. How do you eat your food? Oh, well, you go round the corner and you take your, you know, it's just like.
But I'm cool with a female kicking ass. It's been a long time since, really. So girl bosses, don't mind that's a girl boss. Yeah, girl boss is really cool, especially that it's Starbuck as well. That is kicking ass.
Katie Sackhoff always gets a pass as far as I'm concerned, but. Jaden Smith Eyes has also put, personally, I don't mind that she's a girl boss. She raised Mandalorian and should be incredible. I just wish it hadn't come at the expense of belittling Mando.
Yeah,
it's quite an interesting point.
Can I say I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that the show is called The Mandalorian, but it doesn't mean that has to only focus on Din Djarin. You know, as you say, like she becomes the primary Mandalorian of the show, although I don't feel she did. But if that's the case, then I think that's just the nature of shifting focus within the context of the show. Because for me,
it's not done very well. I think
I've got Simon. You've given me a theory on the Mandalorians. You know, you said about them being a bit thick and not moving because dinosaurs can get them. It was that theory you came up with. What if, right, in the Purge and the splitting of the Mandalorians, all the Uber Mandos, they're the ones who got killed, or the ones that what's his face Axe Wove is actually the boss of. So all the thickies were a part of the Creed, right? So because of that, I'm all right with that, because you've got the armorer who's basically a cult leader. You then have Mando, Din Djarin, coming in and being the clever one. So, you know, at the beginning, everybody wants to be him. Then he goes off, takes a bath, and then comes back with proper clever Uber Mando, and then all of a sudden the armorer goes, "Hey, you need to be our leader. I'll change the rules. You can walk in both baths. You can take your helmet off. You don't have to do the eating alone." So that's what it was. That the Empire actually killed off all the clever Uber ones. I'm going to build out this, right, and I'm going to write a novel. In fact, no, it's going to be a fact. Yeah. It's going to be a fact-based, Graham made-up theory. Here is what the Mandalorian is book.
Yeah.
Maybe Graham, you should be writing for them, because the people who are writing for them at the moment are awful. How?
I do
How
think
do you
there
make
was
it work?
studio. Yeah, you could see there was a bit of studio fiddling and shenanigans there, considering what we had with season 1 and 2. No
Yeah.
writer can literally tail off like that. So I think
Yeah.
Simon, maybe that's what
I-
I can't disagree with that.
I found what Simon said there quite interesting, actually, about Jon Favreau, because obviously, there's a lot of conjecture on the internet. We don't know that for sure, but it makes a lot of sense, because this season, as we said in a lot of our reviews, Graham, was very, very uneven, and it did feel like it had lost some focus and a little bit of passion, perhaps.
I've got to say, that's where I do agree with you guys, is that they do have a sort of structural problem. I feel, which irks me a lot, because it's just like, structure being the primary component of any good story, and it's just like, no, you really do cock that up a bit, guys.
Yeah,
and then that kind of aggravates me a bit, and I think they need to figure that out.
Well, the thing is, because it was an overarching story and not a procedural, not that it was like, like Star Trek, week from week, they have a different adventure. It was, there was this overarching story. It was leading to something, and we didn't find out until like the penultimate episode where it was leading to. And they absolutely rushed all that. And yeah, well, the thing is, that, Moff Gideon, we discovered that Moff Gideon has escaped at the end of the 6th episode, and then by the 7th episode, we see that he is, controlling. He's controlling the spy on, on Coruscant.
Yeah, but like, did you not guess that from the earlier episode on Coruscant?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is, it wasn't threaded throughout the series. It was literally just dropped out of nowhere. Yeah. I mean, take the episode based on Coruscant. What a pointless episode. I mean, it just took
I can't disagree with you.
I completely disagree.
It was boring. I didn't care about any of these characters. And if anything, it made the New Republic look like looked worse than the fucking Empire.
But I mean, do you not feel that's the point, though?
No, because I wanted a course correction. I don't want this to connect to the Disney trilogy, which is what they did. That whole point of that whole episode was to say, look, this is what's coming down the line. See, the New Republic, they got everything wrong, and then the First Order came along and destroyed them all. And that is what that whole episode was. It wasn't anything to do with the overall story of that series. I mean, it was just like a standalone story.
You've got to get it in somewhere, and I think that is the whole point. Is that, hey, yeah, look, this is where the First Order is slowly coming in, and in fact, it was kind of saying, well, actually, the First Order was already on the kind of rise as the Empire was crumbling, and I actually like that, because that is taking into account the overall story of the whole saga.
Yeah. Well,
this is where I wish I'd downloaded the meme for this video of the somehow Palpatine's returned.
Yes.
Because of memes like that, that's why you have this episode.
Yeah.
But the point for me, though, and we said it in the episode at the time, is that I thought it was an excellent story. So to what? Well, actually, no. I want to scrap that. This one was a great story. However, it didn't belong here. Yeah. So whilst we had the Mandalorian and we were in this world and in this story arc for everyone, this particular story, this is why I don't understand, unless they were selling it big, is Disney, because they could easily have packaged that up and had that as a one-shot, a standalone, put it as part of a series. They've got a streaming service. You can do that. So unless it was a marketing ploy to stick something into a very popular show, this, I know people will disagree with me that this was actually an excellent story. I thought it was standalone, right? But in Mandalorian, it completely threw me, and on reflection, I still think that too. That it really got you off the rails. And again, as with going from Book of Boba Fett into this, the course correction was done late. But again, I'll have to be positive here. It was no less enjoyable overall.
Well, I agree with you. It should have been a standalone, or it should have been maybe intertwined with a couple of episodes, so that we weren't just concentrate on these two for the whole episode. Maybe you see bit here, bit there. It was spread over maybe 3 or 4 episodes, because also the amount of time that all these things would happen. Because from the watching the episode, it seemed to take the amount of time it took Mando to fly from one planet to another. That's what it felt like, because it starts off with the TIE fighter scene, which again just seemed to come out of nowhere, and then you see him, getting back to his comrades. But the Ahsoka series and also this series is alluding to Admiral Thrawn, and also the Heir to the Empire story, which is the Timothy Zahn books that came out in the 90s, which were a continuation from Return of the Jedi. And those 3 books were excellent. And it's kind of like shame that Disney didn't kind of go in that direction, because in the books, the Republic are still fighting the Empire. They're still fighting the remnants of the Empire. They haven't taken over Coruscant. They're not in charge. They're still sort of trying to take control planet by planet, bit by bit. And so you do have these warlords, as you see in Mandalorian. They're still out there and they're still causing trouble, and they're all, guided by Admiral Thrawn. So Ahsoka seems to be alluding towards that they want to go down that line. But it doesn't kind of work in the sense that the Republic are in charge already.
But I see though that ironically it should be a keep it simple, stupid for the Mandalorian, right? That if you bring Grand Admiral Thrawn in and those novels, I'm just reading the first novel at the moment, by the way, so no spoilers for 2 and 3, please. I think that would have been overkill. Again, the irony is that they did veer off a couple of times in Mandalorian. So to have it in Ahsoka with its fresher ground, I think it'll work there. So they're obviously trying to expand and delve in. I think Keith, you made a point in about Rebels, the animated series in Leading. I've seen the first couple of episodes, and well written. Not really my bag, if I'm honest. But
you got to get past the first series. It does get much better. The first, you got to remember.
I'm like Paul. I've got a life to
the show was created for Disney. It was a children's show, so it's very kind of childish, but it's once you get past that first series, it gets a lot better.
Yeah, I've got things such as this to get through. I've got. I'm going back to Andor. I've got Strange New Worlds. I've got other Trek. I've got lots of others. I hold down a job. I like my sleep. I've got a house to paint. But anyway, my point is though, I disagree that. If it is Disney pushing us in this direction, that we should be watching things like Rebels, that we should be watching everything that is Disney Star Wars, just so that we can fill in plot holes. You shouldn't be writing plot holes and references back without telling a decent story. So if Ahsoka has plot holes because you needed to have watched everything else, I'm switching off, because a lot of us really struggled to get through Book of Boba Fett because that meandered even worse, and that pulled us from pillar to post. So if they go that way, I think that's really poor writing. and it's going to. I think it's ironically for Disney going to switch more people off than bring people in.
Yeah, I think that's fair comment that this stuff where it's one of those things where it's got to work on its own, but for the Uber fans who are completists, it's nice if those things link up and if there's little sort of references and Easter eggs in there. But it's got to work on its own. And to the point you were making then, what I think is quite interesting is I was speaking to a friend of mine who's a big Star Wars fan of our generation, but he's got kids, and one of his kids is 9 years old. And he said, because I asked him about what his thoughts of season 3 of The Mandalorian were, and he said, look, if he watches it as a Gen X Star Wars fan, a first generation Star Wars fan, or whatever you want to call it, he sees all the things that we're talking about here, right? But he said he watched it with his 9-year-old, and it was an amazing experience, and the 9-year-old loved just everything about it. And his point was, he was saying, Keith, this isn't for us. And that's when I asked him, I said, have you seen Andor? And he said, not yet. And I said, well, check that out, because you might find that, don't watch it with your 9-year-old, but you might find that Andor is for you. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's different audiences.
I think that's a really great point, actually, because I do, having watched this season of Mandalorian now, it's just like, oh yeah, this is the kid show. And that's absolutely fine. And at that point, I think as men approaching their 50s, we can choose whether or not we want to watch the kid show. I choose to, but I always have to watch it with that remove of, this is a kid show. Whereas Andor, it's like, oh no, this is the Star Wars for the people that have kind of grown up with Star Wars, and are now maybe looking for something that's a bit different. Just as Last Jedi was radically different from the Star Wars that got before. Force Awakens radically different from that, but still want something that's in keeping with genres and stuff that they recognize outside of Star Wars. So in this case, the kind of espionage or spy genre. So I think, it's very much the kids show. And when you're making shows for kids, you can hop around a lot more than you would than in shows for adults. I find you can jump around, because people of our age actually don't have the patience to jump too much from plot line to plot line. We really don't. One, because we either find it confusing or we just get bored of it. And I think we feel more rewarded by things that kind of are a bit, a bit more drawn out. And I think we've always got to kind of take it with that grain of salt. It's like you're watching a kids show, and it's fine. It's fine to always keep the child within. I cast no aspersions on anyone watching this as an adult.
Well, no, because we were kids when we got captured by the original trilogy, weren't we?
But also, it is a bit unreasonable to expect that it's going to be like the Star Wars of yore. Like, I just think it's kind of, it's a bit naive to expect that, really.
But that was I don't know, because there was still quality there too, quality in writing and coherence.
I think what do you feel about the story has been incoherent? Is that because you're talking about then bits that you don't understand, and I don't think that any of you don't understand this story. Like I think you do. I think you absolutely understand what's going on. So it's not incoherent. I think it's not well structured, and I agree with that point. But I don't think it's incoherent.
Yeah, I think it's more inconsistent than incoherent.
It is.
Okay,
you're right there, consistent, but incoherent.
Sorry to
No, not at all. English is my
Semantics,
second language.
Paul. No, I'm joking.
No, but it's a valid point. Absolutely, that it was that, but we were confused a little bit. And I know I harp back to Book of Boba Fett, but overall, you have to include that in the in this, because it's not been 3 series of The Mandalorian. It's been 3.25 because of the extra episodes.
That that was always the plan for Filoni and Favreau, by all accounts. Like they always planned to make those last few episodes of Boba Fett the way they made them. Like,
Really?
as I understand it, they were always going to do that. And sorry, Keith, do you want to read?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I get to the people who are kind enough to comment. So Jaden Smith Eyes once again has said, I accept the kids aspect, but not as much for Mandalorian, just because season 1 and 2 didn't feel like it was targeted specifically at kids. And I agree with that. I mean, seasons 1 and 2 felt very much like that they were geared at our generation, right?
Okay.
For the old school fans, right?
And respectfully to Jaden Smith Eyes, can I say why I think that's wrong?
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah, well, you've shown the picture of Grogu. Tell me who that's aimed at. Tell me who the little baby puppet's aimed at. Like that's a kid's show. If you're going to introduce characters like this, you're aiming at children. You're not aiming at adults.
Hold on. What are you saying there? What the hell are you saying?
I just don't think you're aiming at and I think yes, edible. I've got zero. I do not own a single Star Wars toy or bit of ephemera. I'm really sorry to say. I've got plenty of books about making of Star Wars and stuff, but no ephemera to show, no T-shirts. I'm sorry.
You show some of the books.
Jaden Smith Eyes saying it's aimed at wide, which he says with a smile. So somewhat ironically, there we feel.
Not my wife.
Always lost in text, but there you go.
It's a valid point though, because I've watched this with my wife and daughter as well, and I've introduced Andor. Not to my daughter. She is too young. As we keep on saying, it is too talky. But even though I absolutely adore Andor, but it was a valid point I asked last weekend about Star Wars at the moment, and my wife is really finding it difficult to really get into Andor and Mandalorian, despite its she also too saw some of the meandering storytelling in 3 and did adore season 1 and 2 as well. That actually, even when push comes to shove, if given the choice, she'd watch The Mandalorian over Andor there. So there is definitely an audience this is pitched to, but again, it's I still can't dislike it. I mean, I may nitpick Mandalorian right now, and I am excited about Ahsoka coming out there too. So that there isn't that. So I will still keep my subscription to Disney Plus to watch these. Most definitely. They've been trying to be positive there. Yeah.
I don't think that Favreau is at Star Wars, personally, because they went on stage at Celebration to talk about his the movie that he's supposed to be doing with Filoni, which apparently is going to wrap up all these series. Not Andor, obviously, because Andor's very much its own. Has its own.
We know how that ends up, don't we?
Yeah.
All those Rogue One fans out there.
Simon, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. So, obviously, Dave Filoni, he seems to be, obviously he's using the characters he's created, and one can't blame him with that. But he also seems to be cherry picking from what is now Legends, the old expanded universe, like you've already alluded to, the Thrawn trilogy and certain aspects from that. You know, I just wondered, how do you feel about that sort of thing as a Star Wars fan yourself?
Well, well, it's despicable what they did because they, you know, they took all that material, which could have been a great source for series. I mean, they had lots of books. I mean, they were going to do Rogue Squadron at one point, weren't they? And that was a whole series of books. They had a lot of material that they could have actually drawn from, and instead they just went, no, that's Legends, doesn't exist. And then they're doing their own thing, but then they are just cherry picking stuff, characters, plots out of the books, and it's just it's frustrating for somebody who knows those stories to see them being done a disservice, because they were really well told stories that continued the story from Return of the Jedi. It seemed to have a very good sense of how things were changing in the galaxy. So, once the Emperor was destroyed at the end of Return of the Jedi, that wasn't the end of the rebellion. That was just the start of, clearing up and making their way, battling their way to Coruscant. I mean, there was one book on Rogue Squadron where they retook Coruscant, and it was like one of the most exciting stories I ever read. And we'll never see that. We'll never see that on screen because Disney went, that's just a legend. And that's why I take umbrage to, bad writing, bad storytelling. I mean, 1 and 2, the storytelling in that was excellent. I mean, I love the fact that for the first time in season 2, you actually got to see inside Slave One, which you'd never done in the
You mean Boba Fett's starships?
No, Slave One.
I'm joking.
Fuck you, Disney. Slave One. That is what the name of the ship is.
Yeah.
It's the name of a ship. It didn't actually have any slaves in it. It's just the name of a ship, know?
No, I get it. I wasn't bothered. I didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing is that the story, how they treat the characters and the storytelling in the first 2 seasons were really good, really enjoyable, made sense. You got to see Boba Fett be a real badass, even though he'd put on a lot of weight. But it's
being eaten alive
really well
in the sand will do that to you. I know when I go on holiday and I sit on the beach for a week, I fatten up, I tell you.
Well, this is a thing. This is another thing they've taken out of Legends, is that how even in those books they didn't say how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. You just know that he got out of the Sarlacc pit, and to see it in Book of Boba Fett was just I just want to say, I mean, you had some really interesting characters, some really good story arcs. They tried different things. I mean, there was that heist episode in series 1, and then you had the character played by Bill Burr come back in season 2 and have a real proper scene. There was nothing like this in the 3rd season. I mean, Bo-Katan in the cartoons was a really good character, and she could have been a really good character in this, but it just like everything was handed to her on a plate. It was all too easy, or it was a case of that she, took charge of everything. And even in a kids show, things kind of make sense or may not make sense, but seems to have its own internal logic.
Yeah.
And it did seem like it was very lackluster, that they just taking the easy option every time. I mean, the fact that how the Mando escaped from those 2 guards in the final episode is like something out of Austin Powers.
I didn't see
said,
any
right,
sex
you know,
robots.
let's put them in a room with sharks with freaking lasers and 2
Oh,
guards.
that.
No,
That scene, right? I was expecting some female robots that Mando would dance in his pants and then make them blow up.
I tell you, that's where your mind's gone to, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Of course, it has. It's
yeah.
Austin Powers.
Something else. I mean, sort of to this
Mm.
point about things that have been changed and whatever. Something I did it last week, which kind of made me. It was enjoyable, but it sort of made me a bit sad at the same time. Was I went to see, obviously, for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. We've got that back in the cinema, and I went with a friend of mine from work who, as I said, again of the same generation, but he brought his 2 sons with him who are both teenagers, and what was interesting, I mean, we watched it and I have to admit I cringed at all the changes. Obviously I still do, especially in that film, because I think of all the special editions, the worst changes in my opinion are in Return of the Jedi. But I cringed my way through that, but obviously enjoyed the film. But when I asked them afterwards what they thought of it, they kind of shrugged and said, well, the Emperor comes back anyway. And I just felt kind of crushed by that, because I thought,
well, Rise of Skywalker has just ruined so many films. I mean, it ruined the Disney sequels and it ruined Return of the Jedi. Because it does take away the sacrifice that that Luke and Darth Vader did at the end of that film, and it's just like, it's kind of pointless. And again, this is something they've taken from Legends, because in the comic books and the novels, the Emperor has clones,
yes,
which he comes back in, even though in Dark Empire it was a younger clone. So it's kind of makes sense if you're going to clone yourself and you're going to go into a nice, fresh new body. You might want to do that instead of just going back into an old crusty body that you had before.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with my body? Simon.
Oh, sorry, decrepit body.
That's probably an old reference now, to be fair. Well, it would be Ryan Gosling or something now, right? Will Poulter.
Well, you know that Matt Smith was actually hired to be in Rise of Skywalker as the villain. And
yes, I remember that.
We don't know if if he actually filmed anything before they decided to go with the Emperor, but there was several different versions of that story before they decided to go with the J.J. Abrams version.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem that the direction that they're taking with these, the Mandoverse, as they're calling that sort of time period, which is going to include Ahsoka and whatever in that sort of time period there. They are very much trying to retroactively sort of make some of the stuff that didn't really make any sense in the sequel trilogy make more sense. I think that's what they're trying to do, isn't it? Clearly here, like you said, with that episode on Coruscant, with that whole Dr. Pershing side story, because you're right, in terms of this series of The Mandalorian, the only thing that episode actually told us about the season of Mandalorian was that woman was a spy. And she that was really the only thing it gave us in terms of the Mandalorian story. But what it obviously did do was as Paul pointed out earlier, was it set up things to connect to the First Order and sort of join that up, didn't it?
But also, do you not feel that on a thematic level, what it's showing you is what the aftermath of a war is like?
Sure. Oh, definitely.
Well, I mean, look at when you look at World War II, when all the Nazi scientists were kind of, like prized possessions. And I think there's interesting stuff to unpack there, and interesting stuff that's going on now. Again, whether or not you feel it belongs in the Mandalorian, yeah, maybe not, but I don't feel there would have been any other way for them to go in keeping the larger story going. And what that does tie into is the Moff Gideon stuff, which is crucial to the Mandalorian.
Yes,
because that is the resolution they're trying to get to.
Yeah, although to Simon's point that they did, as he rightly said, handle all of that stuff in those novels at the time, which they've obviously veered away from, but it did still deal with the aftermath of war, as in the big rebellion and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah,
I agree with you to a bit, Paul. I agree with you to a bit, but the thing is, when the Americans brought over the German scientists, they didn't then just put them in an office and let them start doing filing.
No, absolutely.
They actually got them to work on, on rockets and on the space mission. But the New Republic, they took this scientist and then put him in an office to do some filing. But I think that's where it falls down, because
I think
if they were going to use Empire scientists to help, because he wanted to do cloning to help with people's medical issues, but also maybe cloning's not they don't want to do cloning, but his work could have led to great advances, and instead they just stuck him in an office to do filing.
Yeah, but I think the context of that is, we feel this is going to be a complete danger if you're allowed to work on this. And we think you're going to be a problem if you're allowed to work on this. So we'll have you just do something really benign instead.
So what was the point of that scene where he's in the big auditorium and he's saying about how, he was doing all this work and stuff, and how you feel would be benefit to the New Republic?
Well, because do you not feel that was the thing that made them kind of go, oh, actually, no, we'll keep him doing the filing, because we can still see there's
What was the point of that scene? What was the point of that
scene? Because you've got to allow the characters to reach that conclusion.
Why would he?
The episode.
Look, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the thing is, they put him in a big auditorium, probably the same auditorium where Palpatine watched the bubble floaty weird show, where he talks about, but why go for that and then just stick him in an office?
Because they're drawing those same correlations, they're drawing those same conclusions. So it's just like, hold on, no, we better put the brakes on this.
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting?
If that's the case, then the New Republic are very stupid.
Well,
and it doesn't seem to be the same.
But again, you're saying that as if it's not the point, and I think that is the point. The point is they make the mistakes that kind of head towards start kind of allowing the First Order to kind of come up.
Yeah, what was interesting about that scene, I mean, obviously we sort of get some foreshadowing about the whole cloning stuff, which obviously we knew from the first season anyway, but or the second season. But what was interesting is it did sort of show the, if you like, the wealthy elite on Coruscant as being absolutely clueless as to who was really in charge now, which I thought was quite interesting. It was one of those class things again, and the wealthy elite being the scumbags and whatever. I thought that was quite interesting. But I think the whole my feeling with all of this is that the thing that felt sad to me by the time we got to the penultimate episode and then the finale was obviously Moff Gideon. And again, I like, Giancarlo Esposito, who plays him, is amazing. Yeah, but I like that character of Moff Gideon. But we found that Moff Gideon was actually successful in not only creating his clones, but also they were forced clones, right? Because of the DNA that they took from Grogu in the earlier season. And I just think the fact that that was done with by Mando pressing a button that destroyed all of the tanks without even setting any charges or anything. They actually had like a self-destruct button on the thing. I did sort of shrug and think, what the hell was the point of that? You know, that seemed like a real waste to me. I don't know whether that was just me, but I really felt that that was a wasted opportunity there to have something cool set up for sure. Did you feel like that? I felt like it was set up and not paid off, you know?
Well, no, it was rushed. As I said, I mean, literally, you found out near the end that he was free, and you know, and he was up to something. And it's like, well, shouldn't that have been like in the first episode?
Oh yeah,
You know, because again, a lot of this stuff seems to be like an afterthought.
I mean, yeah, I do agree they could have moved it up and
so
an episode or two.
Yeah.
Like the introduction of Gideon being free, but I think it's kind of missing what the larger point of this kind of phase of Star Wars is, and for me, and it's where it correlates to Westerns a lot more for me as well. It is okay. This is what it's like in the post-war years, and they weren't all glorious times. And this is really what was going on, and this is really what kind of had to happen to kind of allow people to keep their freedom. And then also in terms of Westerns, where I think it's kind of making a slightly bolder step that people aren't giving it credit for is that it's showing you what happens after the end of Shane and what happens after the end of Magnificent Seven, which is the homesteaders get to build their community, but this is the cost of building that community. But the homesteaders still get to build their community, and this is what that's going to be like. And it's giving a resolution to things like Shane, to the kind of not Man with No Name, but you know, those sorts of characters, because it actually gives him a happy ending, which is rare. And I kind of salute the show for doing that, for kind of going, yeah, okay, we've been basing this whole thing on Westerns and samurai movies anyway, but we now want to look at what happens after. And I think that is kind of the better step it's taking.
Yeah.
And I think that is the whole point of having the Mandalore community kind of reset.
Yeah, I agree with that there, Paul. But the point on showing us post-war, that's where the distraction was. We had 1 and a bit episodes, because the second episode was the NCIS, you know, the as I said, the Mando Folk, the procedural one with Christopher Lloyd, Lizzo, and what's his name, Jack Black. That was a major divergence completely, even though it had elements of what you were not what you were saying there, because what you said earlier about okay, what happens in a peacetime or following a war. But again, my points were previously when we were reviewing this is that it didn't belong in this show, and it could be another very interesting show or set of stories, like Simon's been mentioning a lot here, is the Legends. There was a series of books, comics, but effectively all these stories there that did show that you could still have it here, but it just didn't belong with this Mandalorian thread.
Yeah.
Other than the small bits, the whole cowboy thing. Absolutely, yeah. I still adore that about the Mandalorian. So that piece can't disagree, but it's the other parts that just prove to be a distraction this series.
I do see that point, but I think largely because you're seeing it through the Mandalorian's eyes, that is your access point, and because that I mean, now
I guess I'm not questioning you. I'm questioning probably Kathleen Kennedy or the Disney execs.
Oh, no, look,
why have it here? It didn't belong here.
I'm not. I mean that procedural, the thing that really annoyed me about that particular one, CSI Far Far Away, as I called it, but was the fact I hated that they got into the nanotechnology, because that to me is something that's Star Trek or MCU, not Star Wars. It just felt like it was, I don't know, like kind of annoyed by that. But just to give Jaden Smith Eyes a quick shout, this is going back to that scene that we were, going over. He said, I think the scene was specifically to recall member berries to the auditorium and the reintroduction of a likely forgotten character. And I'm sure, I think there's a lot of truth to that as well. So, yeah. Sorry, carry on. Did I interrupt you? Sorry.
No, not me. I
want to say that episode was a total waste of Christopher Lloyd. As soon as he came on, I mean, it was like an episode of Scooby-Doo. It was like, it was Old Man Crothers.
A total waste or a really nice paycheck for standing around not doing very much?
Very nice paycheck.
I love that. It was a Scooby-Doo episode. I'm writing that down. I'm stealing.
Well, it was, wasn't it? I mean, it really was.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for you damn kids, I mean, I watched Nobody again recently, and Christopher Lloyd was really good in that, and he was given a really good part. And in this, it was just, I mean, that was the cameo show, wasn't it? That episode. Hey, look, it's Jack Black playing Jack Black.
It was the jarring cameo show, because the thing is, there's been a lot of, in Star Wars, there's been a lot of cameos, people making appearances, great actors and everything, but not necessarily as themselves. They've either been under really heavy prosthetics, or they've been in a uniform or something like that.
Well, no, I mean they played characters, and as soon as Jack Black turned up, it was literally he was Jack Black. He wasn't. He is an actor. He can play characters, but it was literally him turning up in Star Wars. They might as well had the Fonz turn up as well. That's what it felt like.
Oh, Henry Winkler, that'd been awesome.
We even had the line in that episode, "Let's get the huge bantha out of the room," which I was kind of like, I mean that whole episode was groan-worthy, to the point when again, a lot of this does feel like video game plotting, where they had to complete this task so that they could get to this point, so that they could get past the guard to get to their actual, where they wanted to go. Having played especially Star Wars games, Knights of the Old Republic, it's very much what that episode felt like. They had to do this task so that they could get this key, so they could get through this door to get to the area that they wanted to. And and
is that not just TV plotted?
I'm all right with that plotting. I'm cool with that, especially if it's entertaining.
If it's done well, but it just didn't. It felt pointless. I mean, it really did feel pointless.
I mean, like I said at the time on the review, one of the things that I must applaud it for is in terms of its action sequences in those last couple of episodes, which we did have to pretty much wait to the last couple of episodes to get some kinetic action scenes, because the thing where they went and rescued the kid took a long time, and I thought that was poorly done. But in those last
that kid should have been he was eaten.
Digest, but what I thought was great, and I think I said at the time, was you were getting in live action there something that you would normally only see in either animation or video games. That we were getting. Oh, okay. I know elements of it were, of course, CG as well, but we were getting a lot of live action, fighting and and all that, which was pretty awesome.
Mandalorian is a show that loves a big monster.
Yes, it does
every season.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, and same with Boba Fett. Like, I think this, but I think that's very much down to like, got to appeal to the kids, so you better put a dinosaur in there.
And their love of Harryhausen as well. I mean, I think Favreau and Filoni, I think they've referenced before that they're big Ray Harryhausen fans. So it's always got that kind of creature element in there. Which, to be fair, having just watched Return of the Jedi, it is Star Wars, you know, the whole Rancor thing and whatever. So
well, you get don't you get at least two in Return of the Jedi? You get the Sarlacc and the Rancor.
Well, I have to say, I know this is a whole nother subject, but I really don't like what they did to the Sarlacc in those special editions. Really annoys me. I much prefer when it was just a gaping hole in the sand with teeth and tentacles. That was way more chilling, in my opinion. But there you go.
There was a great comic run where Boba Fett escapes the Sarlacc, actually.
Yes.
Where they find him just lying in the desert, in much the same way as they do in a lot of the Boba Fett show, from way back in the Marvel years. Probably it would have been about 1985, 86, something like that, I think.
Yeah, I think I had that one. I think the Rancor. I'm sorry, the Rancor. The Sarlacc actually belched Boba Fett out, because obviously he was a bit indigestible in that armor. But yeah.
So I'm thinking, shall we start a petition up to get Henry Winkler into season 4 of The Mandalorian? I would start.
What, jumping over a large creature, like jumping the shark?
I don't care. Anything with him. If you've been watching Barry,
yes,
absolutely awesome in that, and
I
would get him in.
Yeah, his best line in Barry is when he goes, "I can't waste time. I'm 47 years old, you know." Which I just thought, yeah, I love that line.
There's an artist who's drawn some great stuff for Star Wars. He's a very kind of sort of super detailed artist, one of those real fine line guys, wonderful artist, and a wonderful guy called Mark Lamming, who I think is also a big Fonz fan, and his Twitter icon, his logo used to be Henry Winkler in the cockpit of an X-wing with the helmet and everything. It was great. I wonder what happened to that. I'll have to get on Twitter and ask him. But he's a really great artist that you guys should check out if you ever get the chance. Check out his Star Wars stuff.
We'll do. Thank you.
We'll do. Well, listen, guys, I'm conscious we've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes coming up here. So is there any, I want to give you each, the opportunity. Is there anything you want to add that you sort of haven't got to express today about, the Mandalorian, or just where Star Wars is in general, before we kind of tell people where they can find our work and all that stuff? So
can we go with the what's the name of the creature again? The one in Mandalore, the mega dino. What's it called again?
The Mythosaur.
The Mythosaur. Can we do Mythosaur skulls as a rating?
Oh yeah,
that was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Well, what did you decide on? Was it out of 5? So the best being 5 skulls and worst being 1 skull.
Yeah, and I think I was at 2.5 Mythosaur skulls, which I will stick to. But yeah, okay then, fair enough. Well, we can end it with that. But yeah, so Simon, anything you want to add while you've got the airtime?
Well, me personally, I'm checking out of Star Wars, Disney Star Wars.
Okay.
I really think they've done it a disservice, and maybe it's not for me. Maybe it is for other people. I don't agree with that. I think that's an excuse to just abide bad writing, because Star Wars was originally put down as a kids' film, when it originally came out, and look where it is now. And it wasn't exactly the worst writing, but more and more I see, I get let down, disappointed. There's so many things they could have done, so many better ideas. When you're watching these shows, you're thinking, oh, what's this going to be about? What's, is it going to be this, going to be that? Could be this, could be that. And then they just go for really boring and sort of lazy, if they're not, pandering you with like messages. So yeah, I'm not bothered about Ahsoka. I love the Rebel series, and I'm not going to bother with it. So yeah, I'm going to stay with the original Star Wars and maybe dip my toe into the prequels and forget that the Disney sequels ever happened, because I do not like what they did to Luke, Leia, and Han. And I mean, the fact that they let the First Order rise on their watch is just a disgrace to them. So yeah, enjoy. I'm checking out. There's better things to watch. I mean, I will, certainly keep an eye on things, because you go on YouTube and you can't escape all the videos about what's happening. And if it starts to turn around, then yeah, I might come back and revisit it. But as you guys say, there's better things to be doing with our time. And maybe it will redeem itself. I mean, I didn't believe for 1 second that Picard Series 3 was going to be any good. And I loved it. I thought that was great. That's how you that's how you do a series, and B, that's how you send off people. Disney should learn from that.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the original Next Generation crew back together, and they all got to do something. And by the end, it was the best send off that the Next Generation crew can have. No Picard season 4, thank you very much.
No.
And maybe I would like to see them do Star Trek Legacy, but
there
who
is a
knows?
petition out there,
Because
Simon.
Right.
I've signed it already.
Well, the thing is, Kurtzman's still got his fingers in it, and we've seen what he's done to Star
But
Trek.
Henry Winkler isn't there yet.
Indeed.
So maybe we could get the
I'm
double
afraid
petition.
not even Henry Winkler would bring me back to Star Wars. Sorry.
Oh, you
Okay.
mean Star Trek?
So
Yeah.
how many? The Star Trek thing's a whole nother live stream, so we'll get to that. But in terms of the,
Yeah, but I
think you
mean,
make a
the
lot of
thing
fair
is,
points, Simon. So
I mean, the thing is, lazy writing and calling it a kids show. I've seen kids shows where the writing in it's great, and we grew up in a golden age of great kids films and shows, and it's a real disservice to kids these days is if this is what's been given to them. So yeah, and Mandalorian season 1 and 2, I will, I would go back and happily watch those two series and just think that's where it ends. Luke takes Grogu away, and
just like
there's no series 3,
just like Star Charmer 82 said, it was the best ending, and happy days. So how many Mythosaur skulls then, Simon?
Oh, I'd give it 1.
Fair enough. No worries. No. I mean, I think you make a lot of really fair points there. So as I said, that's absolutely fine. Paul, what about you? Where are you at with this same sort of question?
I'm kind of ready to move on from Mandalorian for now, into kind of other areas of soccer and things like that, and especially Andor season 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be the real focus of any excitement I've got for Star Wars. Now, I think that with these things, the MCU, Star Wars, all of it, I'm never really sort of super excited anymore. I'm a bit too old for that, but I'm interested, and I'm always interested to see what they're going to do. And I think then if you start watching and you make the choice, as Simon has, to kind of go, okay, well, I'm done with that, I think that's perfectly fine. And I think sometimes that is best for your sort of fiction mental health, you know,
Yeah.
to opt out. And I actually think that's a perfectly reasonable response to go, this isn't for me anymore. And I think you can also make that sort of mid choice as well, where you can go, this isn't for me, but I'm going to persist with it, which I did with the Disney sequels, because I loved Force Awakens. I thought Force Awakens was great, but I'm also very aware as to why I liked Force Awakens.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, they were diminishing returns as they went on, which really was the fault of not having a good structure and not having all the writers in the room decide on a storyline. Yeah. And I think that's the might be where some of the issues arise with the Mandalorian, is that maybe there isn't enough of a kind of solid underlying structure. And I think yes, it would benefit from more story structure, a better episode structure. Maybe they need to be maybe it needs to be a longer series, or maybe it needs to be shorter. You know,
less walking.
Sorry,
less walking.
Yeah.
Less play walking.
Overall, I'll keep watching this stuff, but you know.
Okay.
You can get out anytime you want. You can stop anytime you want.
Yeah, of course you can. How many mythosaur skulls are we talking then out of 5?
Out of how many? 5? Is it? 5 is the maximum. 1 is the least. I would say 3.
3. Okay, fair enough. Now, Graham, I know where you were when we talked 2 weeks ago. Any change?
In Mythosaur Skull, I'll get to that in a mo. But yeah, I guess just listening to the guys there and what you said there, Paul, I think I don't think it's an age thing that we're not so excited anymore, because I will be excited for Andor next year, most definitely. But I'm with you. I think there's more of an interest now. We've got so much content being thrown at us that I mentioned Strange New Worlds, there's Star Trek, there's other universes, lots of different things coming up that pique our interest, and we have a look, and actually it blows us away, and we do get those surprises. Now, a lot of the surprises, as has been since the beginning of Hollywood, have been franchised and you get sequels, right? So a lot of what we're having to watch now are sequels or prequels. Fine. So maybe that's maybe where the excitement is waning a bit. So for Mandalorian season 4, I'll be tuning in. Ahsoka, as I mentioned earlier on, I'll be tuning in definitely, and Andor. My seat's already booked, right? I'm going to be subscribing to Disney Plus for that series most definitely. So so this particular series hasn't turned me off, but it's made me look elsewhere, as it were, right? So again, I still love. I'll go back to what I said earlier at the beginning of this: is that I still love the look and the feel of the Mandalorian. I think Din Djarin and now Din Grogu are still brilliant characters who I would follow on the further adventures of Lone Wolf and Grogu, right? So I still would be there. The skulls, I think I was on about maybe 3 and a bit when we last talked, Keith. So I'm going to go with 3 and a horn.
3 and a horn. It's always good.
That's where I'm going with this. Yeah, I think it was 5 in series 1, 4 series 2, 3 and a horn series 3.
Interesting. Well, that's cool. Listen, I really respect and appreciate all your opinions. I can certainly see where Simon is coming from. I think as a creative, that grew up with these things, we'd all love to be working on shows like this, I'm sure. And if it's not there and the quality of the writing's not living up to what you want and everything, I agree. Don't waste any time with it. Dip in and out, maybe. So, but I'm interested to what you as an audience out there think. I mean, Do you think that it's got over diluted and it's lost some of its magic, or do you think it's the best thing? Who do you agree with out of our panel tonight? Please put your comments down below, and I'll make every effort to respond to that. Really appreciate that. We do also have one more comment that I wanted to do. Jaden Smith Eyes, thank you so much for your comments tonight, Jaden. I've just purchased 2 books of the artwork from seasons 1 and 2. Absolute 10 out of 10. I'm sure the artwork from season 3 will also hold up. So I think that's a nice positive note there to end on. And I think we can all agree that there are definitely good creative elements to this, even if it doesn't always gel perfectly and work perfectly together. So guys, where can people find more of your work if they want to find you on socials or on the internet or whatever? Simon, I know you've got some films out there. Do you want to tell people where they can check that out?
Yes, certainly. Well, I have a website called independentrunnings.com. And also I currently have 2 feature films on Amazon, Blood and Roses and Modern Love. They're both available for rental. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. So, yeah, you can find out about what we're doing there.
Can I say, I really liked Modern Love, and I didn't know Blood and Roses was on there, but I'm definitely going to check that out as soon as I can. And congratulations on getting them made, Simon.
Thank you.
Indeed.
That's at Independent Runnings, and I'll make sure I get a link added to the show notes here for that. What about you, Paul? I know you've got your own channel and your own things going on. Do you want to tell us about that?
So there's the Comic Crush YouTube channel, which it's getting a bit more intermittent at the moment, just why I'm sort of making stuff in the background, hopefully to carry us through sort of the rest of 2023 and into 2024. And then there's the website, which I am doing plenty of stuff on, which is thecomiccrush.com, which is predominantly comics, but also obviously stretches into kind of genre film and things like that. We're putting up a lot of stuff about Dune at the moment, or Dune Part 2, and which I know Graham was enthusing about just before we came on.
Indeed.
Yeah, so loads of stuff on there. Some new reviews going up next week. There's a web shop, which if people want to buy some comics from, that really helps me out and helps me keep going. And the Patreon's on there as well, which you can join from a couple of quid a month, which also really helps me out. So that's all at thecomiccrush.com, and I really appreciate anyone who goes on and checks those out. Cool.
And you're going to be potentially reviewing Guardians of the Galaxy?
Guardians should be next. We're going to have a conversation about that, I hope. And then hopefully we've got some more stuff coming up, but we don't want to say yet, because just in case we can't get it.
In case life gets in the way.
In case life gets in the way. But yeah, Guardians should be next.
I get it. So check that out at comiccrush.com, right? Is where you can find that, and obviously on social media. Graham, I know that you personally are working on writing and many things. Is there anything you want to promote at this stage, or are you just happy to enjoy the live stream?
I will do both, because I always enjoy the live stream, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure this evening.
Yeah, for me too.
To really banter with you. And of course, I've got Thick Mandos, the series, as a concept now. Thank you, Simon, for that one. Going to have a whole series now of real dumbass Mandos, and it takes an armourer to come in and save. But no, I'm also chipping away at my first novel, Where the River Bends, a modern Western. I'll be making a lot more progress through 2023, and then obviously using the socials to help promote that as well. But other than that, I'm under the radar on the socials, because it's just a bit more fun and less pressurized that way.
I respect that too. Obviously, you're already at the channel here. If you've made it this far, then congratulations for bearing with us. Certainly the people who have been watching, I really do appreciate that as well. You can obviously, I'd love it if you like this video and subscribe to the channel, would be great. You can find us on social media, either Home Media Minefield or at LSWOT Cast, as in Let's See What's Out There cast. As I mentioned, we've mentioned Star Trek a couple of times on this. We do have a sister show where we looked at the entirety of Picard season 3, the final season. So please check out our reviews and work on that. And if you want to see some of my creative stuff, I also have another YouTube channel called British Isles, which is EYLES, as in my last name. And there are some short films that I've written, produced, directed, etc. there. And also shout out to Neil Myers, who does the theme music, not only for my films, but also for this show. His music can be found at neilmyersmusic.com. So please check that out. But listen, guys, I've really enjoyed having you on. I love the fact that everybody's opinion is a little bit different. You know, we are all Star Wars fans at the end of the day, and we're obviously big movie fans and creatives of our own right. But I like the fact that there was some difference of opinion today, and I like the fact that we kept it friendly. You know, hopefully you feel that you all had your say. I really do hope you did. And again, thank you to the people who made comments in the chat as well. I really appreciate that. We will definitely be back with more content, but please do hit that bell icon to stay informed as and when new stuff drops. But for now, I want to thank the guests, and I want to thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time on
Let's See What's Out There.
Bye for now. Didn't quite work, but there you go.
Oh, sorry, I was supposed to say something.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Keith.
See ya.